say you wanna watch a drama. You say you wanna watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama, or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler, so you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch potatoes unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because sometimes things need a change in tone or format, like apparently when a certain comic book character gets satanic. You know, that old chestnut. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders of unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panels and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, via Google Play, and on Spotify to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, Fuller House, Westworld, The Good Place, Grace and Frankie, Arrested Development, Jane the Virgin, Schitt's Creek, Doctor Who, Supernatural, Game of Thrones, Riverdale, and the Arrowverse on the CW. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for The Crown, American Horror Story. We'll be launching new panels covering Mr. Robot, Charmed, Outlander, The Breaking Bad universe, and This Is Us. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll put out some musical stops for our crazy ex-girlfriend. We'll revisit one of the all-time and most-watched classic sitcoms, that is MASH, and we'll consider the moral implications and quick cancellation of Dollhouse. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers and comedy shows and Comic-Cons, plus we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff. It's true. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, or find us on Apple iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and Spotify. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback, just don't sacrifice us to the Dark Lord. It's scary, we're mortal, and that's just dark. Today we're around the water cooler and talking the second part of the first season, or is it the second season, I really don't know, of a supernatural horror web television show produced entirely by Netflix. The show is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and this is the second of a two-part miniseries in which CPU catches up on this newest show and new spin on an old classic. In this episode, part 2 of this miniseries, we're discussing the holiday special, A Midwinter's Tale, which was released on December 14, 2018, and Season 1, Part 2, which was released to the Netflix streaming library on April 5, 2019, with a total of 9 episodes, which means, for the record, that this content is available to Netflix subscribers exclusively, as it is Netflix-produced original content. We discussed Season 1, Part 1 in the first episode of this miniseries. To remind the listener, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina was developed by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa for Netflix, based on the Archie comic book series of the same name. The series is produced by Warner Brothers Television in association with Berlanti Productions and Archie Comics. Aguirre Sacasa and Greg Berlanti serve as executive producers alongside Sarah Schechter, John Goldwater, and Lee Tolan Krieger. The series is centered on the Archie Comics character Sabrina Spellman, portrayed by Kiernan Shipka, and also stars Ross Lynch, Lucy Davis, Chance Perdomo, Michelle Gomez, Jazz Sinclair, Tati Gabrielle, Adeline Rudolph, Richard Coyle, and Miranda Otto. In this series, Sabrina Spellman must reconcile her dual nature as a half-witch, half-mortal, while fighting the evil forces that threaten her, her family, and the daylight world humans inhabit. Originally in development during September 2017 at the CW, the series was intended to be a companion series to Riverdale. However, in December 2017, the project was moved to Netflix with a straight-to-series order consisting of 2 seasons. Our panel of chilly witch wannabes, namely Kelsey, Selene, Jen, and Jessica, is back around the water cooler for part 2 of our catch-up miniseries to talk the latest chilling adventures of Sabrina Spellman and company. Before we do, as always, I'm going to take a moment to take the panel's temperature. temperature. After all, as we all know, sometimes a TV show can take turns for the better or the worse in our heads, or it can continue its level of awesomeness or lack thereof depending upon its story evolution. As always, it should be noted that all of our panelists have watched all episodes of all available seasons of Chilly Sabrina to date and may discuss sensitive plot points. So for those of you who have not watched any of this version of Sabrina and plan to do so at some point, listen at your own risk as there may be major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you?
Great. Awesome.
Are you ready to talk about this second part of the first season, if we believe the numbering?
Most definitely.
Yes, very much so.
Awesome.
Yes, I am.
All right. So what we're going to do is, of course, I'm going to have you rate your interest after this second part along the CPU standard character question, which changes with each show we do. And even though this is a catch-up miniseries, because we're doing it by part, I have tweaked the character question according to the part we're talking about today. So it's a little bit different, and it goes like this. Are you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
All right. So after part 2, season 1, part 2 of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, do you feel that you love this show? It's your life? It may be too dark even for you sometimes, but you also believe it has something to say, and so you're willing to confront those dark forces, even if doing so is ultimately bad for you in the end. You certainly appreciate this dark retelling for what it is, but the twists and turns also inspire your imagination, like Sabrina Spellman. Do you like this show? Most parts of it anyway. You can handle whatever this show throws at you, though you also find some of the story pretty far out, even for someone as open-minded as yourself. Still, the focus on family is what keeps you coming back most, like Ambrose Spellman. Do you watch the show because you're protective of Sabrina and the legacy of the Sabrina character? But your feelings about this latest chapter in her saga are decidedly torn. On the one hand, you admire this retelling and love the new portrayals of old characters, but on the other hand, you feel it might be too caught up in the dark forces, which muddles the story, even if your intrigue in those dark forces is unerring, like Zelda Spellman. Do you watch it because your best friend watches it, though you're not shy about your opinions, which are decidedly mixed, yet you see its potential even when others can't, like Roz Walker? Do you watch it because your family watches it, but the dark and sinister parts leave you feeling very uncomfortable, even when you can't help but embrace them at times, like Hilda Spellman? Does watching this show, or has watching this show, become complicated for you? You're losing interest in the Sabrina character, no matter how much nostalgia compels you to keep trying to love her, yet there are other parts of the show, aside from the main character, that intrigue you, and you can't help but continue to watch, like Harvey Kinkle. Do you love the dark and twisty atmosphere of the show, but you think the story is becoming too convoluted and sometimes offensive between Father Blackwood's family and aim to create the Church of Judas, quote-unquote, and the rise of Sabrina Spellman as Queen of Hell, like Prudence Knight Blackwood and her weird sisters? Do you dislike the show, but for the dark and twisty atmosphere? You can't be bothered about anything apart from your own vanity or pride, like Father Faustus Blackwood. Or you can't help but hate the show. Though there is something winning about the Sabrina character, you serve one master and one master alone, yourself, and your aim to be the true Queen of Hell, and so your efforts in recommending this show are done with only those thoughts in mind, and or out of a feigned sense of loyalty to your dark lord, like Mary Wardwell, aka Lilith, aka Madam Satan. Who would like to start?
I'm very strongly Ambrose this time.
What's your
around.
name?
Oh, hi, I'm Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, guys. But yeah, this time I'm very much Ambrose. Like, I like most parts of the show, and I find it was reaching at some points in this season, but I really came back just to see how everything was going to play out with the family and those characters.
Welcome back, Jessica.
Thank you.
I am Selene.
Hi, Selene.
Hi, guys. And I am, oddly enough, I think a mix between Sabrina and the Weird Sisters.
That's schizophrenic.
Right. I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, like, sometimes I'm watching this and I'm like, this is slightly too dark, but that's one of my favorite parts about it is how dark it goes and how it doesn't shy away from it. But, like, I could care less about Father Blackwood. I mean, he's a good villain. I hate him to my core, but, like, sometimes I'm like, really, dude? Like, you're just excessively hating on Sabrina, which they call themselves out on, which I love too. But, so yeah, I'm a mix between Sabrina and Prudence and the Weird Sisters.
And you'll further explain that later. Welcome back, Selene.
Hi, I guess I'm going next, because
She handed me the microphone. I'm Kelsey.
Hi, Kelsey.
Hi, Kelsey.
Hello.
Hey.
We just finished rewatching this half to prepare for this, and I think I'm Sabrina, you guys.
You say it like that. Why do you say it like that?
Well, because I didn't really think I liked it very much the first time, but I really liked it. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to watching what's coming next. So that's me.
And dynamics.
Oh, she's my wife. Oh, yes. I'm Selene's wife, which is why she handed me the microphone now.
Fair enough. Welcome back, Kelsey.
I can go.
Well, you have to.
Well,
Everybody
unless you
else
want to
has.
go before me.
That's not how this works, Jen.
I thought I'd offer. Anyway, I'm Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
So after part 2, I think I'd be a mix of probably Ambrose and Zelda. I can't remember where it was at last time, but a lot of it is like still, like, again, I grew up on Sabrina the Teenage Witch when it was on ABC, and there's still like a lot of nostalgia from there, but a lot of it's like protecting her reputation, but also like seeing the new adaptation for it, which I liked it a lot better than, well, not that I thought it was going to, because I was kind of excited, but like as I was watching it more, I was like, I thought it was going to dip, but it really hasn't.
Welcome back, Jen.
Thank you.
And of course, my name is Kylie, and I moderate as well as participate on this panel. I don't remember, I didn't do what characters we were last time, because we're in a catch-up mini-series, and I don't normally parse out character questions for those, but I did this time because the two parts are quite a bit different and quite a bit complex. I don't remember what I said last time, but what I would say is I think I'm pretty square. Well, I think I'm between Sabrina and Ambrose. I probably like it more than the Ambrose description offers, but I don't probably love it as much as the Sabrina description offers. I liked this part a lot better, I think, than the first part, now that we're kind of deeper into what the show is going for as far as its own mythology and how they're exploring sort of the different stories. But there are still some things about the show that are kind of far out to me and that has still surprised me as far as me liking the show. Like, it's almost kind of horror-esque, and I'm not a huge horror fan, but I am enjoying it nevertheless in kind of a weird, twisted way, like the Weird Sisters, I guess. I don't know, but I'm not them. I think I'm between Sabrina and Ambrose. I like it a lot. I really like it a lot. I would be like between, so if Netflix has their ratings of love, really like, I would be more in a really like camp, which I did not reflect in the character question, but that's what I am. So welcome back, everybody. We, of course, are in the second part of our catch-up mini-series. We're recording this about 3 weeks before Season 2 premieres its first part, which we'll talk about a little.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Before we get there, though, we want to make sure everybody else is all caught up. And, of course, this is part of our larger series that kind of involves shows around the same universe, be it the fluffy Sabrina at first, as well as our ongoing coverage of Riverdale. But to the part 2 of this season, since that's how they're numbering it, what did you think? Let's talk about it. And we're also talking about A Midwinter's Tale, which was the holiday special that aired 2 months after the first part came out and 4 months before the second part came out. So we can talk about that. We can talk about the season, wherever you want to start. What did you like? What didn't you like?
All of it. I love all of it.
Okay. Because the last reference was what didn't you like? And I was like, what?
Okay, that's fair. I don't like Father Blackwood, but I don't even know. I love so much of it, and it's one of those shows where even on the rewatch, like a lot of times when you're rewatching something, you tend to like be doing something else, playing on your phone, doing something, and I had a really hard time like looking away, even though I knew exactly what was happening. So I don't know, just such a very broad, general love from me. Yes, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of things I didn't like, because on the whole, I just really loved everything. I actually love that there's such a horror aspect to the show, because I like that type of thing. I mean, well, I'm on the Supernatural panel, which I really enjoy Supernatural, or especially in the beginning of Supernatural, I really enjoyed the like whole Monster of the Week format, and I feel like this kind of has that sometimes, which I like, you know, especially the Midwinter's Tale. That was really cool with the Yule Boys and them having to call their mother to get rid of them, and then the Lupercalia episode was really cool. So some of the lore behind some of these things is really cool and interesting to me to learn from that aspect. I love the Lilith character. I just think she's amazing and so interesting, and I've always, you know, I love that actress. What's her name? I can't remember her name.
Michelle Gomez.
Michelle Gomez. I knew you guys would know. But yeah, I loved her. I mean, I guess I haven't seen her in a lot of things. I loved her on Doctor Who, and I love her in this. And yeah, it's just an incredible role they've written for her. But I mean, jumping ahead just a little bit, the whole dynamic when Miss Wardwell's fiance comes home and she's like, what am I going to do with this? And then
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to get into that right now, but that whole that whole evolution of her relationship with him was just so fun to watch. And then when the Dark Lord finds out and like takes him away, it was just like gut-wrenching and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Since we're on this topic, I want to mention that the fiancé was played by Alexis Denisof, who most people from Buffy fandom know to be Wesley Wyndham-Pryce.
I don't remember who that is in Buffy. It's been so long since I watched it.
Well, he actually appears more on Angel, but he's the Watcher that comes in to train Faith and fails.
Okay, I vaguely remember. I have to go back and watch that series.
Still not watched this show, have you?
She hasn't.
You're in so much
I'm
trouble.
a bad lesbian. We did get the whole series for a wedding gift, though, from one of our good friends.
You have no excuses.
And we still haven't watched it. Well, we've been busy doing this.
Oh, okay.
Shows for this. So, but we will watch it because we do own it. I mean, it's on streaming right now too, but yeah, anyway, but yeah, that whole plot line was just really, I think, really cool and ingenious and brought so many levels to that character. And watching her watch Sabrina play Lilith in Father Blackwood's terrible play was also a really heartbreaking moment as well, I thought. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with her character now that she's Queen of Hell. I guess that she's probably going to be somewhat of a villain, but it's like she's still somewhat of a villain. She's always been somewhat of a villain. Yeah. But there's still this like love-hate relationship between her and Sabrina, and so I don't think she can ever truly be the villain, the big bad. It kind of reminds me of, like, similarly to, I mean, going back to Supernatural, Crowley or Rowena or something, where it's like, yeah, they're a chaotic character, you can't trust them, but it's not like they're 100% evil either.
Well, and I think the true big bad, both in Supernatural for a long time and in this show, is Satan himself. The devil.
Yeah, that's true. So it'll be interesting now that they think they've got him locked away, like what next season will bring.
I have to agree with your observations about Michelle Gomez. I don't know what this says about me, but I think she's honestly my favorite character. She was brilliant on Doctor Who as the female version of the Master. She went by Missy. So I was very happy to see her on the show. We kind of talked about this the last time, but she adds something almost ethereally good to this show. Her and Miranda Otto, I think, are very good in their roles. And it is, one of my favorite scenes was the awful play, just because she was in the back watching that unfold, and all these different expressions were playing all over her face. And Lilith is kind of a fascinating character. She gets drawn into a lot of these sort of larger God versus the devil, angels versus demons kind of stories because of her role in the mythology. And it's always fun to see how each show spins her. And even though she has villainous properties here, she very much is almost an anti-hero the way they've set her up in this show. Like, she's got some tragic qualities that make the viewer have sympathy with her, and Michelle's performance is kind of what connects that to the viewer, and I think she's riveting every time she comes on the screen.
Agreed.
Also,
And, like, to piggyback on that,
sure.
Agreed.
I feel like they want you to love to hate her and have, like, mixed feelings about her. Because when part 2 ended, I definitely was like, do I like her? Do I think she's going to do something bad now? How do I feel?
Do you hate her ever, though, since you said you love to hate her?
I don't, like, hate her, but I get mad at her.
Explain.
Like, when she made the Scarecrow to go after Sabrina. Like, we knew, like, when you're done, you know that it wasn't necessarily for bad, but in that moment, you're like, why are you trying to kill this girl? I don't like that you're trying to kill her. What is going on?
Fair enough.
Like, I mean, yeah, agreed that you're like, no, I don't want you to try and kill Sabrina, but I think it's so on brand for her character that I almost can't hate her for it. Like,
She's
which
just
it
doing
totally
what she
makes me
always knows, or what she's always known. She's doing what she's always known.
But having said that, it's very contradictory for me because that's exactly why I hate Father Blackwell. So I don't know. Maybe it's just that I just love Lilith, Mrs. Wardwell, and that character in general. So, I mean, and she does do good things, whereas Blackwell does nothing. So, Blackwood does nothing good. So,
well, it's hard to love him. He's a misogynist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Coming from this all-female panel.
So true.
Fun fact, Michelle Gomez is married to Jack Davenport, who played that guy who wanted to marry Keira Knightley in Pirates of the Caribbean and then became Jack Sparrow, Captain Jack Sparrow, that guy, you know what I mean? I can't remember what his character's name was. But she's married to that guy.
Commodore Norrington?
Yes! Norrington! That's the one. She's married to him in real life. But his name is Jack Davenport.
Okay.
That was it.
Interesting side notes.
That's what I'm here for. What else did you like or not like?
Can we talk about Theo's story?
Yes, I was just gonna bring that up. Yes, we can.
Good.
Yeah, do you have a thought, Jen? Since you asked.
Okay, I really liked how they progress Theo's character, which Theo was previously Susie. Now they go by Theo. How they were respectful for it, so made sure that there was some progression with it, but again without doing anything embarrassing or degrading really for the character.
I also really love that while Theo got a lot of backlash at school, that when they had the confrontation moment between Theo and his dad, it was actually really positive. And I think that is a really cool thing to show for people especially for people who are going through that experience right now, because a lot of times the narrative that is seen in public is not that. So I thought that was really cool. And then I also think it's really cool that so many times in the show, Theo is the one who gets them out of a bad situation. And Selene and I are constantly watching it going, yes, Theo, you are a badass. Thank you. So yeah.
Yeah, or he's the voice of reason too.
Mm-hmm.
I also really, really loved the fact that in the show you went through the entire tarot reading and the plot line where Theo sees what happens. You see Theo is given the option and seeing the negative consequences and how later on, well, I don't like how you see the negative consequences, but just later on when Mandrake, Sabrina's hey, I could make you a real boy. And he's I'm already a real boy. How I feel inside is what matters, not my body. And that's a very important thing that I think a lot of trans people are fighting in the real world right now, is people being well, you can transition. Why haven't you yet? That makes you less of a man or less of a woman. And it doesn't. It's the person themselves and not their body. And I love that they stood up and pointedly made that point.
I really like that too. That's what I was about to touch on, was that Theo so adamantly was but I am a boy, but this is who I am. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people who are transitioning and going through that need to know that, yes, your body may not reflect the gender that you are, but you can still feel and be who you are and not have to go out and change your body, because you can still love your body and love yourself. I had like an "oh yeah" moment during that.
Yeah.
I want to touch on that tarot episode. I agree. I like Theo's journey, and generally speaking, agree that that journey was very positively portrayed, almost to the point that I don't even have anything more to say about it. Which is kind of good, because I think the way they did it, it made it, I hate this word, but I can't think of another one. It normalized it for people who are watching, and that's really what needs to happen as a general rule in society, so we could go there. But since you mentioned the tarot episode, which, by the way, the tarot reader, which of course was Lilith in disguise, but the tarot reader herself was played by Veronica Cartwright, who is a famous character actress. She's probably best known for The Witches of Eastwick. She was the one that accused all the witches.
Oh!
And threw up all the cherries. So, delightful movie. Watch that if you ever want to.
I hate that movie.
Oh!
I cannot stand it.
Never mind then.
Well, I mean, go for it. Watch it if you want. But that is one of those movies that I watched it and I said, why was this made? You have 3 amazing actresses in it and we're paying attention to Jack Nicholson? Like, this is atrocious.
He was the devil. Okay, this is a whole other conversation. But the tarot reading episode, so I felt that one was my least favorite of the season.
Agreed.
I agree.
Do not ultimately know, except for in Theo's case, what value it added to the series, other than maybe showing Hilda and the bookstore owner, whose name I can't remember right now, being all cutie and lovey-dovey and ha-ha-ha and tarot readings. But the tarot readings themselves, like, I kind of checked out during that episode. I got really bored while I was watching it. How did you guys feel?
It felt like it was just like a filler episode. Like the Theo storyline, which I think that kind of helps with his character, was really the only like purpose of it, other than Lilith was just there to kind of fuck with people.
I agree though that it was very much a filler episode, and I was like, can we go to the next one?
I think there were nuggets of content that was necessary in that episode, mostly dealing with Zelda and her trying to figure out what to do with her upcoming wedding and how to navigate that path. And like I think it gave you insight into some, like, particularly Harvey, and which is ironic because I think Harvey's was the most out there one. It was like the most like, why is this relevant? But I think it just gave you such an understanding kind of his character and how, even though he's scared of everything that Sabrina does, I think he's inherently drawn to her because of how out there she is in terms of his living. And I think that was kind of shown in that episode, although it is such a weird like takeoff from his like storyline. And Ambrose's entire Father Blackwood's gonna like have me kill you guys furthered his like paranoia. So I think there's a lot of little nuggets in there, but I don't think they needed to spend an entire episode on all of those storylines.
No.
By any means.
Yeah, I mean, I think the format was pretty pedantic, which made it difficult to stay invested, but I do think that all of the information we learned was relevant, because I think you're right. I think a lot of, she was able to sow the distrust in Father Blackwood that we needed with Ambrose and Zelda, and she was able to have Theo and Roz not rely on Sabrina for her magic to make them magically better, you know? Although she did end up curing Roz, but actually that was more about making sure that Roz didn't have the surgery through her father's church, which I think was good.
Yes. But I did really, really, really love that entire horror aspect scene where she's at that place and the girl's like, you have my eyes. You took my eyes.
Oh my gosh, that was creepy. That was that one, and yeah, that one and Theo's and Harvey's were like the creepiest ones, I think, to me.
Maybe that was it. Maybe that episode was giving more of a vehicle to explore the side characters more, because we do get a lot of the Spellman family centrally most of the season.
Yeah, I think so. So I think even though the format was really pedantic, I think the content was good. It's just, I wish they could have switched up I wish they could have found a way to switch it up a little bit. I'm also curious, like, as a person who is pretty skilled in tarot, like, how accurate any of those cards were, or if you even noticed.
I tried to notice, but if you're asking me to remember right now, I don't know if I could. I do remember that the Fool was associated with Harvey, and I do think they tried to marry, because they used a lot of major arcana cards. They used the ones with the names and not the ones that are suits to kind of foreshadow what was coming. And I think that they did. At least I could sort of see the connection they were making to the general meaning of the tarot card that was heralding the story and the story itself. But that's why I think the pedanticness was so boring, because it didn't really hit home by the end. It was just a fun little touch that got repetitive. And so it didn't help me. I don't know. I mean, I agree that we needed the information. I guess where I'm going is they should have found a different way to do it.
Or maybe found a way to, like, sparse them out.
Yeah.
Like, maybe have that be, like, a one tarot reading per episode and, like, have that character just keep coming back randomly or something. But, yeah. What I'm really curious about is why Lilith did that. Like, I just don't see where, with the exception of maybe Ambrose and Zelda, it created enough of a vehicle for her inflicting change or something, for her to have, like, actually wanted to do that. Like, I think a lot of it was just like, what's your purpose here? Like, why did you decide to do this one day?
Well, that was my point with it in the end. I mean,
she was bored and it was rainy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jen mentioned the word that shall not be said again, but which may have been part of it too. But I just feel like I don't know the answer to that question other than maybe it was bored and rainy, because she had so many other plans in the works or thoughts about her plans that this little detour she took was, I'm just going to go back to boring compared to the rest of it. I mean, there were more grandiose things she was working on and or not working on, depending upon whether or not she was trying to defy Satan or not.
Having talked about Zelda's impeding marriage to Father Blackwood, can we talk about how batshit crazy that was?
It was so weird.
Sure.
I mean, knowing that Zelda is such, like, a strong, independent woman, and knowing that she willingly went into that marriage just blew my mind. Like, I was like, I get where you think you're getting power, but, like, you've been paying attention, right? Like, you know how he is. He is so misogynistic. Like,
yeah, but to be fair, it was not as bad last season as it was this season. And he put her under that spell where she was like the jewelry box.
Yeah, after they got married. Like, I almost, let's be honest, like, I was at first like, huh? Like, Aunt Zelda, and then I was like, oh, yeah, okay, you're under a spell. You deserve it. You shouldn't have gotten married. And then,
I mean, I honestly kind of don't know how she didn't see that spell coming. You'd think she would have put some kind of anti-charm or something together for that, because if they knew that was a possibility, like, that spell existed somehow, they should have, I don't know, I feel like with as misogynistic as he had gotten, they should have known that was a possibility.
I mean, I generally agree. She should have at least seen warning signs enough to not want to marry him, but I just was trying to point out the different degrees. I mean, he kind of really went off the deep end this season between his stupid play and the Church of Judas and kind of his toying around with Prudence and everything. It was just...
Yeah.
He was even more despicable.
I forgot at first when he kept saying, like, Church of Judas, I forgot his son's name was Judas. And then I was like, so are you just literally turning this into, like, a church to worship your son? Like, I know that you're saying Judas and meaning, like, the Judas, but, like, that's what it kind of started to feel like, was, like, because it was really all about the Blackwoods to him. And his legacy.
More like the name legacy for it, because he didn't really care about Prudence being his daughter as much as, like, okay, I guess she's earned her, like, last name compared to, like, what it could have been.
It's because she's a girl. I can almost guarantee you that if he hadn't had a bastard son, his son would have had his last name. And him giving her the last name was just another way for him to control her. when he realized, oh, me withholding this name no longer controls her, he gave it to her because it was another way to be like, but you're a Blackwood now, you know?
Which is exactly what he did, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how Zelda got Prudence back to turn against him, was by proving to her that he really would choose actual Blackwood blood over her still. Well, you know what I mean, quote unquote.
Well, okay, and then also being like, well, we're going to purify the Bloodwood line or Blackwood line by marrying Judas to Judith, and I'm like,
That feels like a cross between Lannisters and, say, Malfoys or something like that.
Yeah, also Judith. That's a terrible name.
Sorry, any Judiths who might be listening.
I'm so sorry if your name is Judith. I think it's just because her brother's name is Judas, honestly. Like, get creative, man.
He's just got it really, really hard up for Judas, so Judith just fell in suit.
It's like he didn't even give any thought to her as a person. He was just like, this is my son, Judas. So you're going to be Judith, and now you have to get married to your brother, Judas. Sorry. Like, I don't know. Just gross.
I have some more fun facts. So, the guy who played the anti-pope that Ambrose was under control of his rat and killed, that guy, he played the devil on a show called Reaper that was canceled after a couple of seasons, but I watched and was actually funny, and it's too bad it got canceled. And then, the head of the Witches' Council was played by William B. Davis, better known as the cigarette smoking man from the X-Files.
Yeah. He's in that Bare Naked Ladies song.
That would be 1 week by the Bare Naked Ladies. BNL, if you're out there, we love you.
I thoroughly enjoyed when Aunt Hilda killed Methuselah, and Zelda came back and she's like, we have to, call the council, and Hilda's like, yeah, about that. I had to spiderweb Methuselah over here, so, because he got handsy.
I really enjoy Hilda. She's a source of comic relief. And I did not realize, I finally figured out where I've seen her before. She is Dawn in the British Office.
I recognized her because she's in Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she's the secretary? I don't know what her... Oh, it is secretary, okay. Yeah, that's where I knew her from.
I didn't remember her from Wonder Woman.
I just realized it now after you guys brought it up. I did like the different sides we saw of Hilda this season, though. Like, she still had that sweet, bubbly front, but, like, she killed that lady for her sister.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Sure.
She straight up put arsenic in the cookie.
I thoroughly enjoyed her ruthlessness when it came to protecting her family, and her explaining, like, yeah, my sister may kill me, but, like, I also have all these abilities to do other things, and I don't retaliate because she's my sister and I still love her. But, like, that doesn't mean I can't retaliate against you, and I got this. And also, we got to see how incredibly smart she is this season, like, how she might have insecurities, but don't mess with her because she seems nice, and she seems maybe like a pushover, but she is not. I also really, really loved I just lost my train of thought. What did I love?
You loved all
Everything.
of it. Everything.
Yeah.
Oh, the Weird Sisters arc in this half of the season I thought was really good, from the entire, like, always being together to being like, oh, you're a Blackwood now, we can't be sisters, to Prudence being like, I thought that family Nate was all about name, and then I realized that family is about those who care about you, and we're the ones that matter, so we have to kill my father. And they were all like, yes. And then,
Yes.
and then the entire, like, how dedicated to the academy that they truly are, and how, people always kind of give them a lot of crap because they're like, oh, you're the Weird Sisters, but they truly are, I think, a great pillar of that school, and how much they pulled through in the end to saving the academy. And I loved that entire, like, arc, and I don't know, I just loved it all.
I definitely earned some love for Prudence this round. Like, at first I was like, I don't like her, and then towards the end I was like, I really feel for her. Like, all she wanted was family, and Ambrose said it, like, we think family is blood or whatever, however he said it, but in reality it's who's always been there for you. Or whatever the father quote was about how they both wanted a dad so bad and they saw it in Father Blackwood and it blinded them to what they really had.
Also, that haircut. That was really hot.
She just was amazing, and she's beautiful.
Yes. I remember us having the conversations during the last recording of this and me being like, I just love Prudence. And I remember Kylie being like, okay. And I was like, oh, sorry. It's because I have second part of the season feelings for her.
Also, we're caught up now, is what you're saying.
It is interesting because in the first part of the season, they really set them up as just like your typical like mean girls. So I like that they give them more of an arc this season so that they have more depth to them and they're not just this, stereotypical shallow group of girls. Mm-hmm. And where they really, like, Prudence and Sabrina really have sort of a friendship there. I mean, there's tension, but it's like a relationship, Yeah.
They're frenemies.
They're frenemies.
Yeah.
And then that entire point when Sabrina's like, we're friends, right? And she goes, you're only friends with me when you need something. Like, let's be honest. And then that last scene with Prudence and Ambrose leaving and the swords, that's just everything I needed and more in my life.
Well, we'll get there because that's the end. And we want to make sure we hit on some major things that happened, which we haven't even talked about yet. So first of all, we got to talk about Roz and Harvey. I'm going to build up to the big thing. Roz and Harvey. What did we think about that?
I'm here for it. But that's because I really like Nick and Sabrina.
I kind of like Nick and Sabrina better than Sabrina and Harvey myself, and you're not supposed to think that.
Well, okay, now who says that? I mean, I don't know that that's true.
Well, isn't it out of the comics that she's with Harvey? And that's why we have all these Sabrinas with Harveys?
I don't know about the comics. Surprisingly, because I'm a huge comic fan, I've never read those comics, so I don't know.
Well,
I think it is, but I can't remember if they break up in the comics or not once he figures out she's a witch.
Oh, I haven't read them either, but I know that it is the source of all of this relationship stuff. I think Nick is new. Nick has got to be a new character, right?
I think so.
I think so.
But he's also, like, Harvey feels like a wet blanket sometimes. And Nick is charismatic and seems to really really genuinely care for Sabrina. And also, on the flip side, he's kind of cute. I'm just saying.
Oh, I paused it today and told my roommate, I was like, you see that handsome man? I love him. And she goes, I don't know who he is. I go, oh, that's Nicholas Scratch, and he's a warlock. And she walked away from me. So, you're not alone there.
All right. I mean, I might be a little old for him, but I just notice things. That's all I'm saying.
I feel like Harvey and Roz are that unexpected couple that you didn't see coming, but they kind of work together too. Like, they both kind of felt burned by Sabrina because, Roz's family had her curse put on her by witches, and then Sabrina kept meddling with Harvey and his family. So they kind of had that common ground of feeling unsure, and I don't know, they just kind of worked, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And I really liked how they both, checked in with each other, how at that one point, Roz is like, hey, before we kiss, we need to talk about this because I know that, unexplainable things is kind of a trigger for you right now because of Sabrina and your brother. So I have the cunning. So I want to say this before we kiss. And then, he's like, thank you for being honest. And then when there's a point when Harvey's, I don't remember at this point, there's a part. But I just really liked how they were constantly talking and communicating and actually reaching out on both sides to both of them were like, hey, Sabrina, we're kind of seeing each other, just giving you a heads up so you're not blindsided by the fact that your two best friends are dating behind your back. I also really thoroughly loved all the times Theo was like, yeah, I'm out. You guys are doing weird relationship things. Not here. Goodbye.
At the table, there was one point where they started kissing in front of Theo and he just started drinking his water can we go now?
Yep. Poor Theo. The third wheel.
Theo deserves love too.
Yeah, I like Roz and Harvey but more to serve the Sabrina and Nick Scratch piece of it. I don't know, I just feel like mixing up those relationships kind of spiced it up a little bit too.
Yeah, I think so.
Also, the entire awkwardness of, Sabrina, if you've ever loved me, stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the fact that Roz didn't just let that go, she was just like, so what was that about? Like, we're going to talk about this. Like, you can't just say that shit and get away with it.
And Theo's just like, bye.
Yep.
And I'm out.
Then we have Nick's familiar, who was a werewolf named Amalia and was jealous of Sabrina. What did we think of that?
With the exception of the fact that he flat out lied to Sabrina's face and said, yeah, I killed her, and then didn't actually do it, I really enjoyed that episode and all that had to do with the way that it revolved around things.
It gave me
But I was going
to say, it gave me a little bit of a Jungle Book vibe, though, since apparently the werewolf familiar raised him.
Yeah, that was weird. So that episode also really made me wonder how warlocks and witches age, because, like, I don't know, like, how long ago, how old is Nick actually? Like, he looks like a teenager, but how old are they? And I don't know, it just really made me curious.
They were talking about that with Ambrose, too, so I think he said he was, like, somewhere in his, like, 70s, because, like, he tried to kill the anti-pope, like, decades ago.
But yeah, so that made me really curious, because also, how come he's such a gentleman if he was raised by a werewolf? Like, where did all of his people skills come from?
Well, maybe when he got recruited by the devil, that's where he, like, picked up some tricks.
I mean, maybe this isn't his first year in school. Maybe he's 70 years old and he's been there for 60 years. I don't know.
Well, and Ambrose did talk about how their powers is what ages them slower. So I don't think we really do know how old Ambrose or Nick are.
Yeah.
Or Zelda and Hilda, for that matter.
Right.
Or any of the people.
Yeah, I also didn't like that he lied to her in that episode. That bothered me. I mean, I totally understand why he wouldn't have been able to kill her. Like, why that would have been hard. But then he really put Sabrina, like, in a lot of danger by being like, no, I killed her, it's fine, go meet me in the woods at this place. And it was like, why did you do that? Like, why wouldn't you be like, I killed her, it's fine, but let's go back to your house? Like,
well, I actually think that was to be a foreshadow that he was capable of lying in that circumstance, and then also in another kind of important circumstance that later comes out. I guess we'll just get to it, because I want to. Here's the thing, guys. This is a spoiler, listeners. We say we give spoilers. This is one of the most spoilery facts of the show. It turns out Sabrina is not the daughter of whatever her name is. Father's name is Spellman, Mr.
Edward
Spellman.
Spellman.
Edward Spellman. Apparently, her real father is the Dark Lord himself. Dun dun dun.
Dun.
Which is why he's taken such a grand interest in her, and he's trying to manipulate her into assuming sort of this Queen of Hell role by his side that he was literally for millennia grooming Lilith for, which makes Lilith very unhappy, and then she starts to try to mess with everything. But also as part of that, the Dark Lord approaches Nick, and it's actually this deal that he makes with Nick and vice versa that sets Nick to go woo Sabrina at the very first to begin with, except that Nick develops true feelings for her. Basically, the devil is Sabrina's daddy.
She's got some serious daddy issues.
like actual daddy. like blood-related daddy.
Yeah, biological daddy. If that
But they don't, like,
applies.
call her the Antichrist or anything like that.
I noticed that, and I thought that to myself, like, aren't we just watching The Omen? Like, what's going on? So...
Well, and it's weird because they call it, like... Because usually, like, they have, like, the anti-pope, and they have, like, maid of dishonor. So they have, like, terms where it's, like, very much against, like, the Catholic Church or, like, religious things. So, like, why don't they call her the Antichrist? Like, even if she does have, like, witch powers or whatever.
Because Harbinger of Hell sounds cooler.
Well, it might sound cooler,
That's fair.
but she also had to go through all of these things, which were the anti-trials, or I don't know. I'm not
The
very
perversions.
The
It was the
perversion.
perversions of the miracles of Jesus Christ.
Correct. So why wouldn't they call her the Antichrist?
I don't know, because the whole time I was calling her Jesus Sabrina, so.
Well, I think that flew out the window.
Although, I must say that I was thoroughly happy that they actually, like, had a reason for her being so miraculously powerful, because once that episode hit where she just started, like, doing magic without her hands and was just, like, coming back from the dead, I'm like, WTF, mate, like, this is insane. Like, I'm all for witches, but what the hell? And then they're like, oh, it's not just because. We're not making her all powerful because. So I was very happy. I mean, I was mad because I was like, she already kind of has a big ego, guys. Like, you don't need to give her this much power. That's just, I don't know. We're just asking for it. But yeah, to give it a reason was good.
It seemed like for this season, she was very hung up on, like, oh, this is what before realizing that her dad's a devil, and she's like, oh, well, this is what my dad wanted. I should do it for my dad this, my dad that, my dad this, my dad that. And it's like, okay, we get the point.
Yeah, that whole business about his treatise on mortals and witches intermingling was weird. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. Apparently some people are, but making that her quest was weird.
I'm wondering if Nick, like, pulled that information or, like, pulled his, like, manifesto or whatever as, like, a fake one so that he could help further, like, the Dark Lord's plan.
I don't know. Like, I do know, we discussed how he did, like, be nice to her and stuff on the request of the devil, but I don't know that he necessarily did anything to actually, like, actively set her up for anything. Like, with the exception of Amalia, which I think was personal completely, I don't think he ever went out of his way to mislead her or to do anything that set her back, because he seemed pretty earnest in everything that he did, with the exception of lying about Amalia and not being like, oh yeah, this is the one thing the devil asked me to do. When she asked him, like, did the devil ever, or did Satan ever ask you to do anything, when he asked her to steal gum?
Oh yeah.
Ah, yes, the many temptations. The perversions. That was one of the perversions, wasn't it? No, that was just a temptation.
No, that was just him trying to prove that Sabrina would do what he asked to Lilith.
Steal a pack of gum was my favorite. Burn down your school was not my favorite.
It took such a jump, like something so innocent as a pack of gum, to just kidding, burn the school.
Right.
So that's all you had to think about her true parentage?
I thought it was weird. Like, it just seemed like a stretch.
Why so?
I don't know. I think it got announced too late in the season for us, at least, like, really reflect on it, compared to, like, where it ended as a cliffhanger. Like, maybe we'll think more about it when it comes to part 3, but I think with the other stuff that happened in this season, that it feels like it should be more of a shock, but it isn't.
Well, so they discussed the fact that she is of 3, like, she's the Holy Trinity, kind of like the anti-Holy Trinity, and that she is mortal, witch, and part of the devil. So, like, while, yes, Lucifer is her dad, I don't know that he's solely her dad. Like, I think there's just some sort of weird, because I don't know, they just kept mentioning it, so I have to believe that he's not solely her father. Like, I think he's partly her father, but I don't think she's completely not Edward Spellman's kid, too.
Let's say, would it be like a Rosemary's Baby situation?
There seems to be several homages working at once, as sometimes happens with these kind of stories. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing, like, multiple nods at once, including the Rosemary's Baby. But I don't know that we have enough information to say that either. That's the thing. That was probably the most intriguing part of the season to me, because not so much that she was Satan's daughter, but also just how it propped her up against Lilith and made them opposing forces. But also, I started to wonder about all those details, too. Like, when did this happen? How did this happen? Why her, specifically? So what? What? I don't know.
What I keep getting really confused by is whenever they flash back to, like, her... Well, I guess, was it her dark baptism? It's not her dark baptism, but, like, her as a baby at the altar and stuff. There's always 2 babies. And I'm like, what is that about?
Well, And then the one had cloven hoof feet, like, and I don't know if that was maybe just her, like, because she's the one who's flashing back, and you're like, well, you obviously aren't the little spectacle hanging above yourself, like, so, like, is this just like a terrible dream that she had once and keeps flashing back to? Is it a vision of something else? Is it a nightmare that you yourself conjured?
I don't remember the cloven feet.
I don't either.
It was shortly after she found out that she was Satan's daughter. They flash back to Edward taking the baby to see him, and they move the blanket up, and you see that the baby has the hooved feet.
Oh, okay. But then they also had that same flashback in like part 1 as well, but like without the cloven feet. And I was like, why are there two? Are we about to find out she was like a twin or something? And then they never explain it.
Well, maybe that's in part 3.
I mean, this was like a real like. This is a real throwback to the Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but the season 2 or 3, I think, Sabrina has to solve this family secret where she finds out that every member of the Spellman family has a twin, and she meets her evil twin, so maybe, like, it was a weird, like, good twin, bad twin situation.
Yeah, but Sabrina does some pretty messed up stuff, so, like, what does the evil twin do?
And I think...
Well, I think it'd be, like, the good twin.
I think they already toyed with that story with the Mandrake Sabrina, though.
That's fair.
I think that was the repurposing of the twin business. I don't remember seeing the hooved feet, but I mean, I trust you. There's obviously several people are remembering it. I don't remember it. If I were to go back and watch it, though, I wouldn't be surprised if that was more of sort of a symbolic kind of dream fever she was having, like a vision. Because she has a lot of flashbacks. Kelsey's right. She actually has multiple flashbacks to times in her life when she is entreated by Satan somehow, whether it's in a dream or a vision or a memory, and that maybe that seeing that baby with hooved feet was just symbolic of the idea that, you know, she really does have that. Because she says that quite often, like, am I really evil? Am I really such a bad person? And then she finds out of her parentage and says, I am evil. I am that bad person. And so I think that's all just kind of her mind manifesting that stuff.
And she even closed it by saying that she's not just two things. She's so much more now. So I do agree that it was kind of probably her thinking she is so solely these two things that she's got to see it that way.
I think the most interesting thing about the revelation that Satan is her dad is the fact that he's like, and then we're going to get married and you're going to be my queen of hell. And I'm like, what is it with you guys in marrying relatives? Like, stop it. And then Aunt Zelda being like, a child marriage over my dead body. And then Sabrina's, you know, saying, not today, Satan.
I love that.
Oh.
That was a very on-the-nose kind of a thing.
I also do love that she threw it in his face, too. He was like, where are you going? She's like, I'm going to school. Like, she's emphasizing that I am a child.
And how brazen she is to throwing things in his face. Like, you might be my father. Well, guess what? I'm going to be just as disobedient to you. You want a taste of fatherhood? Here it is.
And then he says that later, like, I shouldn't be surprised. You are, after all, my daughter. By the way, the guy who played Satan in his not goat format was A, very handsome, and B, kind of familiar, but when I looked him up, he didn't have any credits that I recognized him from. So it was kind of an interesting disconnect I was having while I was watching that guy. Like, you seem really familiar, and yet I don't know you from anything. I don't know what
I've had that too, though.
Maybe that's just a really bang-on bingo kind of a casting. Like, oh yeah, he looks like the devil.
If I had to think of Lucifer Morningstar in the human form, it would be that man.
Right? I guess as long as you're not watching Lucifer, that's a whole other show, and perhaps a whole other podcast.
I think it would be really funny if they got him a cameo as Lucifer.
I said that too when they did it.
It's too late. It's too late now.
I want to know why, if Lucifer fell in Greendale, and that's why Greendale is like the gates to hell.
A nexus.
Why does he have a British accent?
Why do any of them have British accents?
Yeah, a lot of them
Right,
do.
yeah.
Unless they're played by Al Pacino, Jack Nicholson, or Mark Pellegrino.
All the Spellmans had accents that didn't seem to make sense.
Why does
Except for
Ambrose
Sabrina.
have a British accent?
Right?
Why
I think they
does
were just
Hilda
like,
have a
he's
British
bad.
accent? And then Miranda Otto is Australian, but she doesn't really have an accent.
No.
Because she's amazing.
Yes, she is. She was formerly Eowyn. Everybody knows she's amazing. But I'm just saying, the accent game is very confusing. I need a family tree of these Spellmans right now.
There's a whole lot of explaining that needs to happen.
Is there a family tree attached to the companion graphic novels, Jen? Because I would consider.
I don't believe so, but don't take my word for it.
Well, makers of show and books, that's their next assignment, and I'll buy that because I need the help. What about the witch hunters?
That was weird to me, but I also loved it at the same time.
The head witch hunter actually appears as a Hydra person on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Which season?
Oh, now you gotta ask me questions and I gotta think about it. Probably season 2 or 3.
Well, I've already seen it.
Or maybe
I don't remember him.
Maybe it was 4. It wasn't the spaceship one. It was the one where I don't know if Ward was still on the show or not, but he plays Hydra's already gone. Everybody thinks Hydra is gone. And then somehow they find this kid who is carrying on the work of Hydra, and it's this kid who plays Giraffe Meal, the head witch hunter.
Oh, okay. Huh. It might be 4 then, because I haven't watched that yet.
Okay.
Because that would be after...
Ward left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Hopefully. I don't know, it keeps coming back. Now Celine's listening, so I can't talk about it anymore, because she hasn't watched as far as I have.
I also just wanted to say that when Sabrina sends Harvey and Harvey and Theo go into the mines, and then the 3 of them go into the mines because they find that cave drawing that then is covering the gates of hell. Again, for those Buffy people in the audience, did no one get Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibes off that scene or set of scenes?
No, totally.
Selene, you are not counted in this conversation.
You're welcome.
Well, whenever you get to season 7 of Buffy, you'll see it.
Noted.
I just wanted to mention that because I had feelings.
Speaking of that, I was so mad that Theo and Harvey were just like, yeah, we're just going to go in the mines. And then Theo even talks about, we should have told someone we were here, and then you get attacked by the White Witch, and just what do you two think you're doing, trying to die here in the mines with no one knowing where you're at?
Well, and I just want to say, even though we're not quite there, but we're almost there, at the end they form what is essentially the Scooby Gang, with Sabrina playing Willow and Buffy at the same time.
I did love Theo's, smart comments during that episode, though, because when he was like, yeah, we killed a witch, but we're not going to talk about that.
Theo has really had some really good one-liners this season. That was kind of zingers that fell under the wire. Anything else that you liked or disliked about this season, or that we haven't talked about before we get to the end?
The masquerade part, where they sang Phantom of the Opera.
Yes!
I was just going to say that.
Let's talk about it. I had feelings about that too.
No, that was stupid.
Shut up.
You disagree, Selene?
That is the worst song in Phantom of the Opera.
No,
and
disagree!
it's stupid that they sang it.
Phantom of the Opera song, but I liked that it fit.
Hashtag, that is my favorite song in Phantom of the Opera.
She just hates Phantom, so you can ignore anything she says at that point.
Look, I get there are people that hate Phantom, just like certain people, i.e. me, hate cats. That's fine. But Masquerade is a very fun, as far as Act 2 openers go in the Andrew Lloyd Webber catalog, that is one of the better ones.
Yeah, I'll agree to that.
Can I just say for the record, I like the stage version of Cats, but I refuse to see the movie version.
Good call.
The movie version I went to see last night, and it's not as bad as all the reviews say it is. So therefore, I actually enjoyed it because I went in with the lowest of expectations. Anyway.
I don't like cats at all.
Oh, the sound
Will
was
see
awful.
nothing.
The sound was awful. The mix is terrible.
Did love all the costuming, though, for that scene. For Masquerade.
The costuming was fantastic, yeah, for that scene.
Oh, she said she didn't love it. See, everybody's just
No, I
all
did love it.
Oh, you did love it. Okay.
I did love it.
Yeah.
I want to know when they had time to learn the song, the dance, the choreography.
Don't question that.
Yeah. It's like a
It was a musical,
show.
Selene.
Like, they just know it.
She wasn't singing in the original key.
No, it was way higher
Yeah.
at some parts.
I thought it was an interesting choice. It made me... Panelist Sarah will probably never watch this show because it's too scary or something. But it made me think of her because it's like, this is like one of those random musical interludes that keep cropping up on these Archie shows, and I just don't understand. But I actually kind of enjoyed it a little bit because it was Masquerade, and I get what they were trying to do. I liked the spectacle of it. I liked the fact that they put her in this ridiculously beautiful dress and crown thing, and it had the effect of fooling the devil.
Well, so it actually made sense in terms of that Lilith was like, oh, you're so dramatic. Here, I did something dramatic for you.
Right.
And, like, it actually made sense in that way. It wasn't as contrived as most, like, musical numbers are in a random show. But also, random, I saw a tweet somewhere that said that, oh, thank you, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, for proving that Andrew Lloyd Webber made a pact with the devil.
This I agree with.
Well, yeah.
It's rough
did
in our
love-
household.
Also, how uncomfortable Satan got when Sabrina called him dad.
Yeah.
He was like, maybe let's not do that in public.
I enjoyed that whole scene, quite honestly. And it was interesting how they brought back the Acheron configuration, which was so random seeming in the first part of the season. And you're like, what is this Acheron configuration and why should I care about it? And now we have the answer.
Yeah.
Good job foreshadowing and planting seeds, show.
I also really enjoyed seeing Roz and Harvey and Theo being useful as not witches in stopping the gate, and then having Lilith show up and be like, my, you actually were able to do something. I did not see that coming. Like,
They
I'm
prove that
shocked.
mortals have worth.
Right. And Theo being the one that is kind, you know, half the time you're watching the show and Theo's there, but not as paid attention to. And Theo being like, oh, we haven't finished the last, like putting the last few in there, and being the one to like actually catalyzed it was really fun to me.
I also love how Theo was like, we did it! And the demons were like, haha, you thought, and they grabbed him.
Yeah. So here's what the end of the end looks like. So they do this big masquerade, and basically it's all a community spell, if you will, to draw the Dark Lord into this Acheron configuration, but it doesn't work. Not the actual device itself, because he is Satan, not today's Satan. And then Nick, because he truly loves Sabrina, he's pretty talented at magic, especially conjuring, says, well, the people form of this is actually a human body, and I'm going to be that human body and trap Satan in it, and then you'll have to take me to hell, and it will be sad. And then that happens. They successfully cast that spell. Satan is housed in Nick's body. Lilith takes the crown of Queen of Hell from Sabrina very willingly, restores her powers, because she was, you know, kind of mortal for a while, and then in a gift to her, resurrects the real Ms. Wardwell. Also,
I'm super excited to see that next season.
Zelda reforms the coven around the worship of Lilith. Prudence and Ambrose, with the hitherto referenced swords, decide to hunt for Blackwood, since Blackwood tried to make Ambrose a patsy and Prudence, his mule for all of his dastardly deeds. And then, of course, Sabrina and her friends, as the new Scooby Gang, are going to try to figure out how to bring back Nick from hell. What did we think about the season finale?
I was really pissed when Blackwood gave them all poisoned communion, anti-communion, whatever they want to call it, dark communion. I already hated him, but that just cemented that. And then ran off with the twins. But other than that, I thoroughly loved that that was one of the most satisfying season endings that I've seen in a long time. It was very self-contained. It left you wanting more without it being a cliffhanger, and it was just very satisfying. There's still so much more to see, but I don't feel like they cheated me.
Except I really got kind of mad when the last line was Sabrina saying, "Let's go to hell and get my boyfriend back." And I was like, you literally just put Satan in his body. How?
That's
if you
what
get him
season
back,
2 is for.
I know. But I'm like, if you get him back, how are you going to contain the devil and not break
Blackwood's body?
Oh, that's good.
What?
Put him in Blackwood's body. Switch him out.
Is that your prediction?
No, that's my hope. But yes, we'll say it's my prediction.
Okay, because now is the time for predicting.
Yeah, but if you put him in Blackwood's body, then Blackwood's just going to be double evil.
Not if they put him in a permanent sleeping spell, or if Lilith has anything to say about it. I don't know. I'm spitballing here.
The music nerd in me really just wants, if he ever comes back, for them to play the song that My Boyfriend's Back and You're Gonna Be in Trouble. I just really want that to happen.
That's actually a really good segue to one of my bonus questions of the talking points. Have you noticed the hodgepodge of music that the soundtrack is made of? I mean, it kind of spans a whole bunch of different decades. It doesn't really get more modern than, say, the 80s that I've heard so far. Do you think the show is trying to say something through this music selection?
That all of them are witches, and they aren't all hip and modern?
But now that you mention that, you really don't see a lot of, technology in the show either, though. I don't think I ever remember seeing them use a cell phone.
I was thinking that too, but then they still have the more progressive storylines with obviously Theo's trans story. Some of the costumes that they wear too are somewhat modern, but they still have the classic stuff. Sabrina kind of dresses a little more not 50s or 60s, but the skirts, the turtlenecks, that kind of thing.
They also don't have any computers in their school, now that I'm thinking about it, in the mortal school.
Well, and then the comic book it's based off of takes place in the 50s or 60s.
Didn't Roz have a computer that she was working on?
No, and she's using a cassette player when she's doing the blind things.
I just wanted to note that in this series, or the season finale particularly, you notice it when Ambrose and Prudence are staring at the statue or what's left of it. They're playing The End by The Doors, which is very famously the opening song of Apocalypse Now. The very first thing you hear are helicopters and the first notes of The End by The Doors, which I feel was very, very deliberate. So now I'm starting to think back through all of the song choices, is there layers of meaning in their music selection, and or what are they trying to tell us? I mean, you're kind of talking about time, place, and setting also, which I think is a legitimate observation. It's kind of all over the place. Not really set in a time that we can tell.
However, it's also, Greendale seems to be a very out in the boonies type city. It's a small town. I would beg to say that given the amount of magic going around and there being a hellmouth there, that maybe magic is affecting how much technology there is or whatever, but it also could just be back, it could just be in the 80s, I don't know.
Well, in contrast, Sabrina's sister show, Riverdale, they have cell phones, they have computers, they have all that stuff, and it's all modern, hip, Gen Z kind of music.
I do wonder, without giving anything away from Riverdale, I do wonder if maybe Greendale's not in some sort of, time hold kind of aspect. They might be, frozen where they are. Because they do talk about Greendale in Riverdale, but you never really see it. So I almost wonder if that's going to be kind of a tie-in. Because magic is mentioned in Riverdale, but who knows?
I would say maybe we're dealing with a multiverse thing.
Well, they are linked, and like the intro says, Sabrina was originally going to be on the CW. I think the network kicked it because of the dark subject matter. It's darker than Supernatural in some respects, but they're still acknowledging that they're the same universe. That's kind of why we're launching all of these at once. But I started to wonder about the music, because I noticed that like it would literally swing from 50s style, like My Boyfriend's Back, but that was not one of the songs, to like the 80s, like they played some stuff at the dance that was the 80s. I can't remember now. I feel like Careless Whisper was one of the songs, like just things like that. No one has thoughts. I guess only I notice. I am kind of a music junkie. So
I would almost care to say that because I didn't notice it, it's just very well done. I mean, like most people, you tend to notice when things bother you or are annoying. And I'll be the first to admit that a lot of pre-90s music I didn't grow up being extremely well versed in. So I don't have a particular connection to a lot of those. I'm going to say older, and I feel rude saying that.
yeah, rude.
But like older music.
Rude.
So having not noticed it, I don't think it's a bad thing, given my background. It's just not something that I particularly noticed, which is a good thing, in that it wasn't terrible.
I just don't remember. I mean, I think they were playing Journey at the prom. I think I remember that, but maybe it was Careless Whisper, but for some reason I remember Journey playing at some point and being like, oh, of course. They're playing Journey. And then being like, oh, of course they're playing Journey, and then being like, what year is this? Like, why are they playing Journey? But other than that, I don't know. I feel like there was one song that stood out, though, that we both were like, oh, that's a really good choice for this scene or something, but I don't remember what it is now. I have a terrible memory right now. So I don't know. I guess I would have to, like, prepare better for that question, because I don't know that it stood out to me enough to, like, actually take note of it. But I'm sure going back and listening for it, I think you're right. I think they were probably pretty intentional with the music. And I did listen to a lot of that classic stuff.
That's the word I should have used. Dang it!
You didn't know classic?
I know classic. I just failed to think about it at the second.
Classic.
She just says old. She doesn't say classic.
Then there were other Easter eggs. For example, one of the new characters this season was Dorian Gray, who runs the Grey Room, which was hitherto an all-male-only club until Sabrina walked in because she was trying to run for top boy or whatever it was. Yeah. And of course, Dorian Gray is a direct reference to the picture of Dorian Gray, which is the text that got Oscar Wilde into trouble with the church and other things. So what did we think about that?
I really enjoyed the references and having him in the show. Like, I really enjoyed his character and how 100% he really truly is like such a chaotic character because he's for himself. And he's mentioned it several times. He's like, yeah, no, I'm on no one's side. I'm on my side. And I thoroughly loved that about his character.
I like that he hides in his portrait.
Yeah, he hides in the literal picture.
Yes. But yeah, I thought that was a really cool character. And a cool place to have him fit in as like this bartender at this club. That was cool.
The other thing that I raised, which Jessica and I were actually talking about offline, does it surprise you that no one seems to be bothered in the same way they're burning Harry Potter books, for example, about this show?
The only people that were bothered, like we said, was the Church of Satan because of the statue.
Right, which is... Okay, they settled out of court. That's fine. They're taken care of. I mean the people who worship, God.
Yeah, it is a very interesting vacuum of people being against this. Now that you mention it, like I do remember being in high school and having like all of that information out, being like Catholics shouldn't go see his dark material, the Golden Compass movie. Don't read those books. Don't go and see, which was always very interesting. They said, don't go see the Da Vinci Code, but they were fine with you seeing angels and demons. And I'm like, really? Like, in Angels and Demons, the dude is the freaking son of the Pope, and he's like a deacon. Like, that's pretty bad. But whatever. And I mean, granted, I'm far out of Catholic circles now. Like, I don't go to a Catholic high school anymore, so I don't hear all this crap, but I definitely haven't heard anything about there being like
I was gonna say I think we talked a little bit about this last time. I think the Catholic Church has enough to worry about right now, where they're not like trying to slander every single like title that like goes against the church. And then also another thing keep in mind too, there is a different pope. So maybe he's trying to be like, hey, don't be such a priss about this.
On the flip side, though, I did just see at the movie theaters another trailer in the mainstream for like a strictly like Christian movie, which seemed to be making it more into, I guess, mainstream than they used to. Like, I know there's always been a good, healthy amount of Christian movies, but I never used to see trailers for them at the movie theaters, and now I have been.
That's why I feel like it's.
I was gonna say what movie
weird.
was it before?
I Still Believe is the one I just saw.
Okay.
Oh, it was before Cats. It was before Cats, but the trailer was for I Still Believe.
Okay. Well, maybe it's just like trying to capture like the right like audience for like a marketing perspective for it.
Yeah, but a few years ago, I don't know if it was a few years ago, but like there was like 7 different movies that I saw. That one where the boy fell through the ice and everyone prayed for him and he came back. I don't remember what it was called, but that was before like 7 different movies. One of them was definitely a rated R movie, so like
I don't know.
I think that people are just more focused on bigger issues right now, maybe.
Yep.
A lot of it political stuff or their single issue political stuff. It just seems to be like those are the really hot button issues right now, and that everything else, I don't know. I just feel like people are really single laser focused on those issues right now.
Well, my thought with what it was for like Golden Compass and then Harry Potter was that they were much more like mainstream and like a little bit more easy access. I mean, granted, Netflix is like as long as you have a subscription, you can view it, but otherwise, like not everyone wants to be able to view Netflix, or they can set up like the parental blocks for it. Like it's a little harder for them to like market for Sabrina than it is for like the movie trailers and then for see Harry Potter.
That's true.
It's not
as wide of a scope.
It just struck me. That's all.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with part 3 and part 4 if people get up in arms about it. But honestly, like, I don't think they would at this point, since it is pretty far along, and Netflix gets like pretty good ratings for it, obviously, since they keep continuing it.
I mean, I haven't heard a lot of people protesting about anything that's original content from streaming services. That definitely could be protestable, I guess. Like, definitely this show, but also, like, there's a lot of...
They did for 13 Reasons Why.
Well, that's true, but that, yeah.
At least that was, like, had religious context with it.
That show has, like, psychological repercussions, though, as well. Like... Oh, yeah. That, like, there's a lot of... That show was causing a lot of damage, and I think there are good reasons to warn people and make them cautious before they watch it. At least a specific group of people. But I think, I don't know. I mean, I have never watched it for that reason, personally, because I struggle with depression and suicidal thoughts. So I took that warning and I haven't watched it. But I think, I mean, there's a lot of like gay and lesbian content and stuff like that I think would be easily protestable. Is that the right word? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, that would be easy to protest as well. And I think that it's just such a smaller scale than like a book that's gotten a lot of publicity or a movie that's getting a wide release.
That's a good point.
We'd like to think it's because the world's more accepting, but I don't think that's the case.
No. Well, that's why I raised the question. So,
yep.
If we haven't explored enough, one last call for predictions for the next part of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Do you have any?
I'm kind of hoping that we meet Sabrina's. I want to say dad, because I'm taking the fact that the devil keeps calling Sabrina his daughter with a grain of salt. I'm hoping we see Edward Spellman, like maybe if they go back to hell or something.
I hope they touch more too on that, though. Is it No, it's not Diana, but it's similar to that.
Her mom's name is Diana.
It's Diana.
Yep, it's Diana.
Is it? Okay. I hope they touch more on that, though, and why they chose, and if that manifesto was true, and maybe the reason why Edward was willing to let Satan be part of Sabrina's parenthood, or whatever you want to phrase it, is because he thought by having her be the mix of the three of them, that she could change how the wizards, and not wizards, warlocks and witches are viewed in society.
In terms of predictions, I am calling there being a maybe not quite a war, but a definite, like, conflict between the Church of Lilith / the Academy and the rest of the churches of night, given that everything that went down with Faustus Blackwood and all of that, and Methuselah's death and the anti-pope's death. And I just foresee there being some huge quarrels there while Zelda's trying to rebuild that church, especially because she'll be the first woman high priestess. And I'm also predicting some awesome travel tales from Ambrose and Prudence. I cannot wait to see where that all goes. And getting to see outside of Greendale area, because we've never actually traveled outside of Greendale. So that I'm excited about that.
Well, at least like technically in the same like plane, because they've gone to, was it I think they called it Limbo.
Limbo, yeah. That's fair. But I mean, I'm assuming Limbo, because it's Limbo, is still technically like in Greendale. It's just in a different plane.
Yeah, they travel to different planes, just not like different locations.
Well, I don't think that Satan is going to stay in Nick Scratch very long. That's my prediction. I don't know. That's really my only prediction that I can say with certainty. But I'm piggybacking on a lot of your stuff too. I definitely think that the Church of Lilith is going to have a lot to answer for and a lot of backlash very immediately.
I would also like to throw in a prediction that Sabrina will annoy me greatly in the first episode. She has not failed yet, so.
Oh my.
I mean, I still love her. I love her a lot. She just always manages to be, like, annoying.
She got better this season. I will say that. Like, still kind of annoying, but not as bad as the first season.
That's true.
I will say Mandrake Sabrina was my least favorite thing. It was really annoying.
The scream she did as Mandrake Sabrina was awesome, though. Like, that was a great sound effect.
I really predict and hope for more character development with the ones that we started to see this time around. So with like Theo and Prudence and Ambrose, like I want to see them continue to grow and have more presence and not just be those kind of secondary players.
Piggybacking off of that, I'm very interested in seeing the continued characterization of like Elspeth and Melvin. Also Dorcas and Agatha. Because now we're seeing more of them, but now I can't wait to see them continue to grow now that Prudence is going to be gone and traveling, and seeing how they grow without her there. I think that's going to be very interesting.
Did Agatha and Dorcas die though, or were they just in like serious condition?
They were. I think they were some of the people that were saved because Prudence intervened.
Yeah, they were poisoned, and then Prudence brought them back to
the Spellman's house.
Hilda, and she healed them.
Right.
I hope we see Lilith again, even though she's down reigning in hell. I hope we see hell. I think that would be... I'd like to see what hell looks like on this show, other than fire and brimstone. Every show does it a little bit differently. But I think we're going to see a lot of Ms. Wardwell at first, and it will be interesting to see if she starts to have echoey memories of when she was kind of sort of... I mean, she wasn't really possessed. Lilith kind of took her form. But if that reverberates back onto her in any way, I think that they will find a way to separate Nick and Satan somehow, but I don't know if Nick is going to survive the ordeal. That would be my one question. And I do hope that they spend time figuring out this whole parent situation now that we've raised this unholy trinity. I need to know more of what they meant by that, because you've raised the questions, and I think that's going to be a unique part of this show's mythology. Like, what does this really mean, and how much does Satan really care about his daughter in the end? And again, why her? Why Sabrina? Why this particular girl in this particular situation?
Going off of the Lilith thing, I'm really interested to see if Lilith keeps Miss Wardwell's form now that she's Queen of Hell, or if she takes on a whole new form, like her original form that we've seen in the flashbacks she has. So, yeah.
I hope so, because Michelle Gomez was awesome as her.
Yeah, I'm really sad for Miss Wardwell because her fiance is dead.
Whose name was
Yeah.
Adam, ironically.
Ugh.
Oh yeah, and then Miss Wardwell, or then Lilith, like, made that scarecrow and named him Adam, and I was like, God, get over it.
She never
There are
will.
other names.
That was her first love. And then her second love was Satan. She doesn't choose him well.
Nope.
Somebody get that girl on a dating app and teach her how to find the right one.
What's going to be really interesting is the fact that she's going to have missed so much time, and now she's principal, and seeing her come to terms with all of that and being like, how does that get explained to Miss Wardwell?
Yeah. Or maybe she already knows, but she's trying to keep it secret because she doesn't know who else, like, knows about this, like, weird witchcraft stuff. Or maybe Lilith told her, like, you can't tell anyone that I brought you back or whatever.
Anything else that you want to say about season 1, part 2 of Sabrina, or what you hope to see in season 2, part 1, or part 3, or whatever they're talking about?
Keep up the good work, guys. Don't fail me now.
Really hope they slide in another Not Today Satan, because that made me so giddy.
Are you going to keep watching?
Yes.
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 That's unanimous. And do you recommend this show as of the end of this piece? Why or why not?
Quite often.
Quite often.
Sorry, quite often, because I love it, and I think it has a lot of very interesting subversions of tropes, or not necessarily tropes, but subversions of what we're used to seeing in a TV show, mostly just in that, everything is so Christian in American society, and it's very interesting to see something that is so antithetical to that. And in a way that I think, it's not like it's just a different religion. It's not just something that we're not used to. It's something that is directly opposed to what we're used to. So I really enjoy that, and seeing how well they have threaded the needle through everything and how well connected most of it is. And as you said, like, the Harrow episode is the least exciting one, and even that, like, had some really good nuggets of well done art and acting and everything. So, like, I don't know, like, at its least exciting, it was still really good. So I just think overall it's really tightly done. It's really fun. It has a lot of mythology, a lot of lore, a lot of just information, and I thoroughly enjoy it, and I love telling people to watch it.
I think the right person, I'll continue to tell them to watch it, but if I know it's somebody who's going to get up in arms over how satanic it can be, it would definitely kind of sway my persuasion. But I still tell people, like, hey, you want a good show? Watch this.
Yeah, I don't think I know anybody that I recommend TV shows to that would be, like, super offended by the satanic portion necessarily, but I do know people who don't have very strong stomachs. So I think I would probably recommend it mostly to my friends who watch more, like, horror drama or the horror genre stuff. But I think all of them have already watched it. But if I ever came across somebody who I know does watch that and hasn't seen it, I would definitely recommend it to them.
Jen, do you recommend it?
I do. I mean, they kind of hit everything that I was going to say, where it's like, just got to know the person. I would recommend it to people, again, knowing the audience and knowing if they're going to be, like, sticklers or against, like, any of the satanic stuff. And again, like, pending they have strong stomachs or, like, can handle some of the gore and horror stuff that's in it.
Fair enough. I agree with that sentiment as well. Like I said, panelist Sarah probably would never watch this unless her husband convinced her to somehow. But there are people that I probably would recommend it to, like my brother-in-law, for example. I don't know if he can get past the Sabrina-ness of it all, but he loves horror. This would be the kind of thing he would watch. Is there anything else that you haven't said that you want to say? This is the time to get your feelings out about the chilling adventures of Sabrina. Season 1, part 2, so season 2, part 1 coming up.
I have said my piece.
Yeah, basically, I'm good too.
All right. Since everybody's so good and not so chilling, I guess, what I'd like to do is thank Jen, Jessica, Selene, and Kelsey for joining me once again to talk about the chilling adventures of Sabrina, Season 1, Part 2. This is very cumbersome labeling, Netflix. I just want you to know that. But since we've gotten past the cumbersome labeling, it's now time for the credits. Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kelsey Rezmer. Kelsey played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole kit and caboodle was engineered and produced by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. Give us stars, give us comments, give us reviews. Let us know how we're doing. Send us a message. We might just read it on the podcast. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what we should keep, what we should toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via our social media, Facebook, Twitter at CPU Podcast, and Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. We always have several more new episodes coming down the pike. Just listen to our intros, and if you miss old episodes or want to know in general what we cover, just find us. We are everywhere and searchable wherever you look for things on the internet. You can search for us, or you can subscribe at our website, our channels, our social media accounts. Stay up on our new events and episodes. Until the next time, all available seasons of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina are available to stream on Netflix, because that's the network that makes it. In the meantime, our Sabrina panel will next reconvene, probably not too long, because we're going to talk about Season 2, Part 1, which was released to the Netflix streaming service on January 24th, 2020. So until next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned!
Bye-bye.